Ben Affleck was struggling to find the right actor for the role of James Coughlin. His younger brother, Casey Affleck, though, suggested Jeremy Renner, who he'd worked with on the assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford in 2007. And before the movie's release, Ben Affleck praised Jeremy Renner's performance, even jokingly stated that if there was ever a bad shot or performance from someone else in a specific scene, he could just use editing to cut to Renner, who could just be like looking at a napkin and it would make the scene work. Again, he was nominated for an Academy Award for his performance in this 2 years after The Hurt Locker, right? 2008 was Hurt Locker?
Hurt Locker was 2000. It was the year The Dark Knight came out.
Yeah, 2008.
2008, yeah. That's how I remember movies. Based
Well,
on
yeah,
when
based
The
on-
Dark Knight came out.
That's how I remember what point of my life I was at. What year did Inception come out? Okay,
2 years after Dark Knight,
2008.
so 2010.
Yeah, it's easy with Nolan because he makes a movie every 2 years, except for obviously COVID. Ben Affleck's second film, The Town, blew everyone's expectations out of the water as he crafted one of the great heist films of the 21st century and a love letter to Boston. Let's break down The Town.
Hello, movie friends. Welcome back to another episode of Raiders of the Lost Podcast, the ultimate film and TV podcast. We are a wicked awesome podcast, guy. And today, we're talking about our hometown, Boston, Massachusetts, with one of the great Boston movies of all time, The Town, guy.
The Town, directed by Ben Affleck, which was his second film. He made Gone Baby Gone, which was excellent. That was surprised a lot of people in Hollywood. This guy's got some directing chops, starring his brother Casey Affleck, and another movie set in Boston. But I don't think anyone expected The Town to be as great as it was, and such a huge hit. This was kind of a sleeper action film and heist movie from Ben Affleck, who came off a rough 2000s in his career and personal life, being a tabloid machine in terms of just so much attention, the negativity towards him from public opinion, taking a lot of bad movie roles. But then he comes out as a director and writer and becomes this great triple threat, if not the best triple threat in Hollywood right now in terms of writing, directing, and acting in his own movies. With Gone Baby Gone, he didn't act in, but he directed. But The Town, and then Argo, obviously Argo Fuck Yourself, and then Live by Night wasn't amazing.
It's all right.
But he's made 3 very excellent movies, and I think this one was just out of nowhere, just surprised so many people. And I rewatched it last night for the 4th time. I hadn't seen it in a while. It still hits. It's still awesome. And when it comes to heist movies, action movies in general, and shootouts in heist movies, this is a contemporary heat.
You forgot another great movie, Air.
Air, of course.
He's made
Air.
4 awesome
Yeah.
movies. But yes, it's a fucking shootout in Fenway Park. Are you kidding me?
This is awesome.
It was like a Massachusetts movie fan's dream to watch. I remember watching this for the first time and oh my God, they had a full-blown shootout with SWAT and police inside of Fenway Park. Are you kidding me?
There's one thing missing, though.
What?
There's no Dunkin' D's, kid.
No Dunkin' D's.
Dunkin'
They couldn't get the
Donuts.
rights.
Yeah.
I bet Dunkin's wanted a little bit more money.
Ironically, now he's the face of Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah, right?
he's the sponsor, the spokesperson.
Now, before we get into The Town, our short film, Midnight Ruin, is out now on YouTube. Feel free to follow the links in our bios, go to our YouTube channel, and watch Midnight Ruin. We hope you all enjoy it, and if you'd like to leave a rating on Letterboxd and IMDb, that would be amazing, as well as entering our movie poster contest. In order to enter that contest from movieposters.com, leave a rating for Midnight Ruin on IMDb, screenshot that rating, and send it to us on DMs on Instagram. That enters you into the contest. Good luck, everybody, and we hope so much that you enjoy the movie. Now let's get back into The Town.
But I love The Town. It's my favorite cops and robbers movie after Heat, because what works so well with Gone Baby Gone is Ben Affleck. He tunes into the culture and the community of the areas of Boston, and he does this great thing with almost all of his films, except for Live by Night. He does a great kind of montage of the community and the culture to open his films. It happens in Gone Baby Gone.
Yeah, it gets stealthy.
Yeah, it happens in The Town with Charlestown.
Charleston shoes.
And then it happens in Argo. We get the documentary footage of the environment and the battling that's going on. And then in Air, we got a montage of the era of the 80s with the great supercut of popular culture in the 80s. So Ben Affleck does a great job of inserting the whatever the culture and era is into the minds of the audience immediately into the film. It's the first thing you see in his movies, which I think is really smart, especially with Boston movies, because you're getting a sense for the community, you're getting a sense for what people look like, how they dress, what the environments feel like. And Charlestown in the Boston area, like any other city or big state, like people dress a certain way. There are styles in every city, and it'll change from city to city, except for something like LA where everybody's a transplant. But there is a way of dressing and a way of wearing your hair as women and guys. Like the high fades in this movie are spot on because every guy has a high fade in Boston for most of their life.
If it was summertime, there'd be a lot of cargo shorts too.
So true.
A lot of cargo shorts and Boston Red Sox t-shirts.
So he also captures just the tone of what it looks like for someone from the area.
He's such a smart director, and I think, something he does a great job of with this film specifically is surrounding himself with great talent. Not just great actors, but great behind the camera talent. We have Robert Elswit, cinematographer for this movie. But I mean, the cast is absolutely stacked. Besides Ben, we have Jeremy Renner, who is awesome in this movie. He feels more like he's from Boston than Ben Affleck in this movie. He's incredible. People like Jeremy Renner in this movie. Not like Roberts, but like people who talk like him, who act like him, kind of like a wild card sort of character, as well as John Hamm as an FBI agent in this movie. Excellent cast. Rebecca Hall as the main love interest, the girl who works as the manager at the bank that she gets taken hostage in the first heist, but just excellent surrounding cast. Chris Cooper as well. I think it's a really smart thing of him, as well as, like you said, cops and robbers. It's such a great genre, but he made it fresh by inserting Boston as a character.
And also with great imagery. The poster was fantastic with the nun outfit. So the nun mask, the old lady mask with the nun outfit. That was like the main selling point for the film.
It's an old nun, Anthony.
Yeah, holding
just an old nun.
Just an old nun.
It's an old lady mask. It's an old lady. She's a human, and she also has been working at a church her entire life as a nun. You mean an old nun?
So yeah. Anyways, an old nun with the machine gun. That was the poster, and everybody was like, "Holy shit!" This is so. It had like an imagery to it that really set itself apart from other films in the crime era, because this is a time when crime movies were still pretty high, very popular. I mean, they still come out, but
Boston was hot.
Boston was super
The
hot.
Departed, Gone Baby Gone, now this.
The Fighter.
The Fighter was 2011 or 2010 too. Yeah,
filmed around the same time. So it was definitely hot. Right now, Italy is hot as fuck in Hollywood.
It's funny because we keep saying hot. People are like, you mean hot?
Hot.
The accent, we can't say hot. We say hot as hot.
Hot.
Hot. Yeah,
hot.
kid.
It's fucking hot, guy.
But I will say that the posters for this movie aren't terrific. The posters aren't terrific. I will say that. There's a couple good ones. But I mean, there's not much you can do creative-wise. But I will say the trailer and the imagery of the nuns robbing the armored truck. This movie had juice to it in terms of anticipation and excitement and curiosity because of sequences like that, bringing freshness to cops and robbers with kinds of outfits, as well as the what would you call them? The first heist where the Grim Reaper outfits.
Yeah.
But not to mention, this movie was only a $37 million budget and it ended up making $154 million worldwide.
Damn.
But the production value looks so high because the third act, we're at Fenway, kid. The third act heist is at Fenway. The trailer.
Are you kidding me?
Everyone was so juiced to see this movie. a robbery at Fenway? Sign me up. So the production value is so high. And I mean, who else but like Ben Affleck can get like access to Fenway like that? I'm sure only like parts of it, as well as off season or like when the team's not home.
Yeah.
Shooting is a lot easier than you'd sound. But I mean, it's not like John Henry's letting anyone film a movie there. And when it comes to movies shot at Fenway, Fever Pitch is trash. And
the worst Boston movie.
The town is sick.
Fever Pitch is the worst Boston movie. Nobody like.
No one's like that.
It's not true. It's like it's so inaccurate.
No one's like that in Boston.
It's so inaccurate for the culture.
That's why Jimmy Fallon's movie career ended. Fever
Boston
Pitch.
Taked it.
Thank God. The curse of the Bambino ended, and the curse of Jimmy Fallon in movies ended as well.
He's a New Yorker, though, isn't he? I think he's from New York.
I don't know where he's from.
Probably.
But he's definitely not from Boston.
Speaking of Boston, I think a fun way to open the episode would be to rank our Boston accents in this film.
Oh, that's a good idea.
So, not everybody has an accent. I think John Hamm pretty much was like, I'm not doing a Boston accent. He is kind of an outsider.
Not everyone from Massachusetts has an accent.
Exactly.
Some people have subtle accents. It's usually the closer you are to the city, the thicker people's accents are. Like if you're blue collar, like low income, if you like grew up in Charlestown and Southie. Like it's different. But then even people in Worcester, they'll have accents even though they're 40 minutes away from the city.
People in New Hampshire will have the accent.
So it's all over the place. But not everyone in Massachusetts has an accent.
Yes.
Especially if you're a yuppie, you don't have one usually.
So I thought it was
Or you'll fake it at parties.
Yeah, I thought it was smart that not every main character had an accent. And Rebecca Hall also doesn't have an accent. She's more of an outsider to the area.
She's a toonie. We'll
She's
go
a
over the
toonie.
slang in this movie.
So let's rank accents for the lead cast. So Ben Affleck, what's your rating out of 10?
Giving him a 9 out of 10 because he's an actor who's from Boston. Most of them, they lose their accents as they get into acting, and then they bring it back for specific roles. I think he did an awesome job bringing it back, but he's not born in Boston, but he got his accent, as growing up in Massachusetts, in Cambridge, near Matt Damon. But I think his accent's terrific in this movie.
Yeah, I give him an 8.5, not quite a 9. It's very strong, and sounds pretty great. He does drop it a couple of times. It's not completely consistent, but it's when compared to any other actor, it's top tier for sure.
Yeah, you can tell when someone loses their accent for professional purposes. I mean, if you want to be an actor or like a radio show host, you got to drop that accent.
Train
That's
it.
why
They train it out.
We don't talk like this on the podcast all day. It'd be obnoxious.
Boston Jim isn't here anymore.
Yeah, Boston Jim's dead. I pushed him off a cliff in his used Honda.
Used Honda. The Honda Civic.
It was his mom's
The Honda Civic's gonna be the most common car in Boston.
It was his mother's Civic.
Is that the most common car in Boston? I think
It's up
it is.
there.
It's
the
up
Honda,
there.
the 2004 Honda Civic. It's pretty up there.
So many of them.
So, all right, who's next?
Jeremy Renner out of 10.
15 out of 10. Jeremy Renner, his performance in this movie, it might be the best Boston character I've ever seen on film in terms of the personality and the accents. He nails it so well. It's incredible. And he surrounded himself and did a lot of research with actual robbers and thieves from Charlestown, from Boston area to really nail the accent. But you can tell he did his homework and he put a lot of work into this role. He got an Oscar nomination, but he's terrific. His accent is stellar.
Yeah, I give Jeremy Renner a 9.5 out of 10. It's for a non-Boston, Massachusetts-based actor. It's up there with Leo DiCaprio in The Departed. It's just fantastic. It's better than Ben's in this movie.
Yeah.
It really is better. Like like when you watch him, Ben's from Boston, but when you watch this, Renner feels like he's from Boston. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's that difference. It's a slight difference, but he nails the little idiosyncrasies of not just the accent, but the way he carries himself, the inflections of the voice and the tone of it. It's
personality.
It's very specific, yeah.
I mean, when it comes to talent, Jeremy Renner is the most talented actor in the movie, probably. And then, I mean, Ben's always been a talented guy. He's a talented actor. He's never going to win an Oscar for acting. But Jeremy Renner, he's just a different level of actor. He's that good.
Yeah, I agree. All right, next up we have Blake Lively.
I think Blake did a really good job. I'd give her like a 7.58 around for her accent. I think it was solid.
I think she gets a lot of hate for it, but I think it was good too. I give her a 7 out of 10.
Yeah, it sounds like if you went to a bar in Boston.
And she put on that smoky voice, like she's been ripping butts all her life.
Yeah, ripping cigs
Yeah.
and drinking whiskey sours all night.
I think she did a great job. And she does get I've seen online, she gets quite a bit of flack, but I think out of the rest of the cast, she did a great job.
She blew me away the first time I saw this movie.
Yeah,
was like, "Holy crap."
I thought she was pretty believable. Next up, we have Chris Cooper.
Chris is great. I give him a 7. He's only in really just that one scene, so you don't hear too much of it. But it's more of like a prison drawl that he's got going on. But I think it's really solid.
Yeah.
It's not like it's not as good as Renner's, but it's solid.
So Chris Cooper is also a Massachusetts native, and he actually started out in a lot of Massachusetts, Boston-based TV movies. So he was actually in an episode of The Equalizer back in the 80s. So
It's probably real and natural.
Yeah.
So it's not like
it's
overdone.
not over the top.
Yeah.
I would say out of 10, I gave it a 7 because he does drop it a little bit. Not that he's also one of the most talented actors in this film, and he's such a reliable actor in any movie he's in. But it's not quite 100% there the whole time in his conversation. But it's probably a different kind of Boston accent is my guess.
I wonder what part of Massachusetts he's in.
I think he's from Northern Mass, if my memory serves me right.
Let me see. Chris Cooper.
Fucking
Kid.
Chris Cooper guy.
Chris Cooper is from. He's
Northern Mass.
well. He's born in Missouri, in Kansas.
I thought he was from Mass.
I think he must have grown up in Massachusetts.
I feel like he's from Massachusetts.
Let's see. Real
Chris
quick,
Cooper.
early life.
Tell us about your life.
Tell us about your life. University. No, I don't think he was from Massachusetts.
Really?
Yeah,
Damn.
Missouri. I think you're thinking about Scott Cooper or someone else.
Nah, I guess I just mixed him up with someone else.
So Anthony is wrong. Yeah, Missouri, Kansas, Las Vegas, Phoenix, and Houston are all the places he was raised.
Chris Cooper never spent any time.
He's never even been to Massachusetts.
No, he lived. No, okay, here we go. I got it. He's been living in Massachusetts since 2003.
Gotcha.
So he moved there. So he's been living there for 20 years now.
So
he his residence is Massachusetts.
should we just delete the last 5 minutes of the
No,
pod?
because
yeah,
I was a little right.
I'm kidding.
Yeah,
I'm kidding.
he's not from there, but he resides.
He lives there.
Yeah.
It's his home.
So that makes sense for his accent not being perfect.
Yeah.
So that actually makes a lot of sense. Next up, Titus Welliver, who plays the other FBI agent. He's got that TV show Bosch. How do you rate his accent?
Bosch kid.
Bosch guy.
That's the thing when you're trying to pinpoint a Boston accent or doing it's the O words that are important, not the AR words. Like obviously everyone knows the cars, park the car, and have it. Yeah, it's the O words that really reveal the Boston accent. So Bosch kid, Boston.
Bosch guy.
Let's see. I would give him probably like a 7.5. It's solid.
I thought his accent's great.
Yeah.
I gave him a 9 out of 10.
9.
His accent, he doesn't have that much dialogue, but he's got some dialogue in the interrogation scenes, especially the one with Ben Affleck when they bring him in for questioning. He's from Charlestown, and Doug talks to him about like basically betraying his community that took him in. I think Titus Welliver did a great job with his accent. It's really, out of the other actors, it's the best one except for Renner, I would say.
Sounds like a cop.
Good cop.
You're not a cop.
It's a good guy.
It's a good car. All right. How about we run through? Do you want to do superlatives or you want to do that later on?
Let's do superlatives
In a minute, because I want
intermission. At the intermission.
Yeah, I want to run through some stuff. So,
what is the movie about?
The Town was directed by Ben Affleck, written by Ben Affleck and Peter Craig and Aaron Stockard. IMDb is a 7.5 with over 400,000 ratings. Rotten Tomatoes, The Town is 92% fresh with critics, 85% fresh with audience. Letterboxd, it's only a 3.6. Budget, again, was $37 million. It grossed $154 million globally. It follows Doug McCrae, who is a Charlestown local and a career thief, who, smarter than the rest of his crew, is looking for his chance to exit the game in Boston forever. When a bank job leads to the group kidnapping a branch manager, he takes on the role of monitoring her, but their burgeoning relationship threatens to unveil the identities of Doug and his crew to the FBI agent who is on their case. Doug is forced to take on the biggest and most dangerous job of his life that could end his hopes of a new life with Claire.
Boston Jim's coming back.
Boston Jim,
I love it.
He climbed up that cliff. he made it outside the Honda Civic. It did not blow up. But again, when it comes to heist and crime films, heist movies are one of my favorite genres. That's why I adore the Oceans movies so much.
I fucking love the Oceans, man.
But the heist genre is so great, but it's hit or miss. There's so many great ones, but also so many meh. When it comes to the 21st century, though, this is up there. Obviously, in the crime genre, movies like Heat, like Goodfellas, The Godfather, these are, untouchable. They're in a league of their own, but I think there are parts of The Town that you really compare to them, especially this feels like a combination of Heat meets Good Will Hunting, meets Gone Baby Gone, meets West Side Story. It's like kind of a mashup of so many all-time movies and stories because we have the great heist sequences from movies like Heat, from movies like The Place Beyond the Pines. We have the relationships like Good Will Hunting in Boston. Like so many sequences in Good Will Hunting in The Town are like very similar, but just different.
Yeah, with an outsider.
Yeah. But also like the sequence at the bar, like the girlfriend's there, but they're drinking beers and they're having a good time. It's just a very Bostonian thing, as well as Romeo and Juliet, this forbidden love that can't happen, but it just is inevitable between the two of them. And then West Side Story, where the two lead characters, the two main guys, Tiff and the other guy, it's similar to Jem and Dougie, where Dougie got taken in by Jem's family when he was young. So he was kind of raised by Dougie to an extent in his family and part of his home.
And you can make a subgenre, the cops and robbers subgenre. And I do think that The Town is up there below. Heat's number one. Heat is untouchable when it comes to the crime, cops, and robbers movie. But I think The Town is probably the second best.
And when it comes to cops and robbers, movies like The Place Beyond the Pines, It is. I would say that's in that conversation as well.
Yes.
Even though for the first like half hour to an hour, we don't really have much of a cop's perspective until Bradley Cooper comes into the picture. And then we're getting the cops and robbers storyline. And then that's such a great movie because it's such an epic and spanning robbers to cops, then kind of a little mixture
Then
of both.
then just
Politics.
yeah,
And
and childhood.
and adolescence
Yeah.
and coming of age. So I still think that that's a cops and robbers movie, and that has one of the best chase scenes ever.
Yeah, it's an excellent chase scene. And what's so cool is, growing up in the Boston area, films were really rarely shot there. And they became popular in the 2000s and 2010s because Boston and Massachusetts offer a great tax break for film productions. And so it became pretty common. There was like that Bruce Willis Surrogates movie was shot in Boston. A bunch of other movies in the 2010s and late 2000s were making their productions in the Boston area. And there was even talks about maybe a huge giant studio being built in Rhode Island, in Providence, but that ended up falling apart. There was like some shady business deal. But remember, people were talking about that for a couple of years in the 2010s. Never happened. But it was so cool to see this movie, the grand scale action film, car chases on Beacon Hill and through Charlestown, and just the shootout with the Boston area, and the cinematography by Robert Elswit captured great handheld cinematography with the car chases. Didn't feel like you were losing touch of what was going on. There was a great balance between high octane editing and more balanced editing. It never felt overwhelmed, but it was cool to see these car chases through the narrow, winding streets and the grid roads of the Boston area, which are very narrow,
very old,
very tight.
Like we're in the North End with
Yeah.
the heist with the nuns and the armored truck. That's in the North End. Very tight corners. These old cobblestone streets everywhere. It's awesome.
And then to see the bridge and all these shots, but just to see the architecture done, because Boston's a very, very beautiful city, and all the neighborhoods have a different feeling to them. And you get to see that in a film like this because every robbery takes place basically in a different area, and they never repeat the same location twice. So you get to see the different, basically kind of like boroughs of Boston proper in this film, and then they always go back to Charlestown, obviously.
And then opening with the shot of Bunker Hill is great.
Bunker Hill.
Bunker Hill. Don't shoot till you see the whites of their eyes. Great revolutionary history right there.
Bunker Chill guy.
And Ben really took full advantage of the city, really making it feel like a character in the movie, making it a part of this world, and making you feel like you're in this historic and very old city in this country. And one of the greatest elements to this film that I think many people in New England and Massachusetts can find highly relatable and tragic at the same time is addiction, alcoholism, and Alcoholics Anonymous. I mean, a lot of people in Massachusetts, they know people, either friends, family members, relatives that are in AA, that are in NA, that have suffered from alcoholism, that have suffered from drug addiction, and making that a huge motif of the film, as well as the backstory for Dougie being a recovering addict. You're always in recovery, a recovering addict from not just the typical, like usually movies like you're used to do heroin or something like that. Oxycontin, especially in this time, was huge in Massachusetts, still is. It's a huge problem that no one really is talking about nationally in Massachusetts. A lot of kids are overdosing on Oxycontins every single year. But having that as a main motif and part of the film when it comes to drugs is very relevant to this city, to Massachusetts in general. AA, we have family in AA. Our uncle is in the scene, the Alcoholics Anonymous scene. Our uncle is in that scene as an extra. It's really cool to see him. I forgot he was in the movie.
Yeah.
Then I'm watching the other, hey, it's Uncle.
Yeah, because Ben Affleck used real AA members, and that was a real group. And the guy speaking, talking about the Eskimo in his story being his wife, and that's a real member of AA, and all the people in that scene are real. And Ben Affleck, I think, wisely borrows from filmmakers like the Coen brothers, where whenever they're in a location, they try to populate their film with as many local talent as possible. And not even talent, but just local people to give the feeling and the essence of the culture and let it really permeate on the screen, rather than a production team being like, let's emulate what people look and sound like there. Let's actually pull people from there. And it really makes a difference. So Ben Affleck in all of his movies has used people from the community in his actual films, and that's a great example of being inside like a real AA group and really sitting in that meeting, and you can feel it. You can feel it in the air. And when you look at that group,
If you've ever been to AA, yeah.
That looks like an AA group because it's in our family. We've been to AA meetings as kids. We've been around that environment and community, so we have experience with that. And when I see it on the screen, I'm like, that looks correct. That looks exactly right.
And he takes it even a step further. The two other guys in the crew, obviously we have Jem and we have Dougie, but then we have Albert, Glonsey, and then we have Desmond. These are played by George Carroll and Owen Burke. They're locals to Massachusetts, to Boston, and I believe they were probably. I'm not sure if they were actors. They came to open casting calls.
So George Carroll, he was in Gone Baby Gone.
Okay,
he's the guy that helped with the deal. Remember?
Yeah.
Drove from the SUV, go to the warehouse to meet up with the other thug, the other criminal. He worked with Ben, and back then that was his first movie role as like a non-actor acting in a movie. And then
he plays Bubba.
Exact Bubba, that's his name. So Ben, obviously, you're like perfect for that film. And he wisely cast him again in this film because those two guys, they look so Boston. It's crazy. It's like that's what Boston guys generally like. If you're gonna think of a Boston guy, that's it.
They're from town. They're from the Charlestown. They're from Southie. They're from the Boston area. So that's taking it a step further. And I mean, Charlestown is so iconic in Massachusetts. If you're from there, I feel like most people nationally or around the world, they've heard of Southie because of the Wahlberg brothers. You know, the Wahlbergs are from Southie, but north side of Boston, there's Charlestown, and there kind of had always been a rivalry between Charlestown and Southie. Charlestown's called the town, even though this is also based off a book called Den of Thieves. But there was always that rivalry between Southie and Charlestown, just like when Dougie is talking to his father in prison. He's talking about how the dad's talking about how the Southie kids are just trying to run stuff in the prison. And then Dougie eventually finds out, obviously spoilers, that his dad gets killed in prison, probably by the Southie kids and the Southie gang. So there's always been a rivalry between Charlestown and Southie. And again, the town's based loosely off Chuck Hogan's book, Prince of Thieves. And in 1995, the Boston Globe ran an article which inspired the film's prologue of this movie, the opening credit roll, and actually noted that more armored car robbers are traced to Charlestown than any other neighborhood in the entire country. This is based on FBI statistics at the time in 1995. It's not because those criminals made sloppy getaways and they got caught there. It's because this is a small community, adheres to omerta, silence unto death, according to Den of Geek, and they don't rat. You know, they don't tell on each other. That's why Dougie thinks so negatively of the detective, of the FBI agent who's from Charlestown. And the crew at the center of the town resembles a gang of 5 masked robbers who pulled holdups from 1990 to 1995. And after a 7-day trial, they were convicted of 55 counts of robbery, including one which resulted in the death of 2 armored car guards. And they went to jail because there were cracks in the pavement, leaks on the street, so they got ratted on eventually.
Wow, that's amazing. What I love about the film is how Ben Affleck staged and shot his action sequences, because they have a great propulsive feeling to them. And Robert Elswit is one of the best DPs alive and of all time. He won an Oscar for There Will Be Blood, so he is an all-time DP. I really like the way that this film is edited, too, especially the first robbery. So with the first robbery, Ben and his editor, they do this combination of cutting to the security footage with silence. So it'll be like they break in, they burst through the door and start holding people up, and then it cuts to security footage, silence. Then we do some more stuff in the bank, then it cuts back to the security footage and more silence. He does that about 6 or 7 times throughout that sequence, and it really is something I've never seen before in a heist film, and it's right off the bat, it pulls you in, and it's just fantastic editing. That opening sequence, a lot rides on, if you're going to do a robbery movie, a lot rides on your first robbery scene.
And I'm sorry, we're going to keep going?
Oh, no, I'm just going to say it. And so, like, if you can pull it off, and if you can make the audience feel like they've seen something they hadn't seen before, that gets them ready and really geared up for the rest of the film.
And going on that some more, seeing something you've never seen before. These heists are all unique. You never really seen it done quite like this before. The blocking is terrific in the mall. I mean, starting with the first heist, the Grim Reaper heist, you could say, when they're robbing the bank. Doing things like pouring bleach everywhere, showing the discipline and also the intelligence and experience of this crew. They are a different breed of robbers. They know what they're doing. They have a system. They're very intelligent. They immediately find the traced bills and the markers. They bleach everything to not only get rid of fingerprints, but DNA, as well as to eliminate possibility of identifying fibers from clothing. It's just really clever, as well as it has the cliches that you kind of need in heist movies, where we have a crew where two guys are just basically the average grunt workers for a crew. Then we have the brains of the operation, who's Dougie. And then we have the wild card, who's Jem.
And the muscle.
And he's the muscle at the same time. You need that kind of guy as well. But he does put them in tight situations, like taking Claire as a hostage.
Exactly. And there's one other another detail for showing their experiences before robberies. In the showers in the morning, they do that intense scrubs on their skins. That's to get rid of any dead skin and loose fibers that could fall off during a heist. So
that's what happens when you watch a lot of CSI.
Yes, Bones.
CSI Miami, Las Vegas, all of them.
Bones too.
Also, when they great detail, when they break into the first bank and they get into the vault finally, what's the first thing that they do? They didn't go for the cash. The first thing they do is they go for the hard drives of the security footage and the cameras, and they fry those. They get that done first before. I mean, also things like zip tying the door shut, zip tying everybody. It's just really clever stuff. They've done this clearly several times.
But the script is really tightly written, and you can see it in the first moments before that heist, where Affleck's Dougie is doing narration about the security guards of the armored car and describing them in narration. And then it cuts to them, the four of them are sitting inside, looks like either a room or a van. And Dougie reiterates, we don't want to kill anyone, we don't want anyone to get hurt. But then you get this little subtle hint of Jem, and he goes, if basically, I can't remember exactly.
Don't get in their way. Don't stop them if they want to get here for $10 an hour.
Exactly. So Doug is like, we don't want any violence, but then Jem's like, if they're looking for it, I'm down for it. Like, that shows that he is the reckless one. It's a very subtle characterization. It's not like he's saying, like, if they fuck with me, I'm going to blow them away. It's much more subtle than that, but it showcases really immediately Doug's the leader in the mastermind. The other two are the guys they can trust and also the soldiers, but Jem is, like you said, the wild card, but also the much more reckless one, and someone who craves violence, and someone who probably enjoys violence.
And these two characters are the key to this movie. Ben Affleck as Doug McCrae, and then Jeremy Renner as James Coughlin, a.k.a. Jem. You know, he's such a gem. You can have this one. You know, Dougie is highly intelligent. He's troubled, though, in his youth. He's a former addict. He grew up thinking that his mother abandoned him, and it's not until we found out later in the movie, and he finds out later in the movie, that she was an addict who committed suicide, and that it was all orchestrated by Fergie, who's basically runs the block, runs the neighborhood, gets a cut of everything. And Fergie got his mother addicted to drugs after his father turned down a job. And you can also assume that maybe Fergie set his father up to get arrested and like messed up that job, which is why he got pinched and got put in jail for 5 life sentences.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You can imagine that.
Because he got arrested, but then they took out the guards as well. They shot the guards. So Dougie's a really troubled person, but also he's wicked smart. And he was once drafted in the NHL. He got drafted. He had a second chance at a hockey career. But because he couldn't escape his past, he couldn't escape his youth, his troubled life, and his addiction probably at that age, he got in fights. He couldn't skate backwards, as he jokes, and he got cut, basically. He couldn't cut it in the NHL as a player. But he had the potential to get out, and that's why his character is the lead, and he has a great arc of trying to have a second chance at life outside of Charlestown, trying to get out of there. And then we have James Coughlin, played by Jeremy Renner, who's, again, absolutely incredible in this movie. Sounds so Bostonian. Again, he surrounded himself with convicted bank robbers from Charlestown. From research, Ben Affleck originally wanted Mark Wahlberg for the role of James Coughlin, but he was unavailable because he was shooting The Fighter, which took place in Lowell, Massachusetts, which also came out in 2010. Boston was on fire.
So hot.
So hot.
It was the Italy of 2023. Everything hasn't been in Italy this year.
Yeah, it's true. And Ben Affleck was struggling to find the right actor for the role of James Coughlin. His younger brother, Casey Affleck, though, suggested Jeremy Renner, who he'd worked with on the assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford in 2007. And before the movie's release, Ben Affleck praised Jeremy Renner's performance, even jokingly stated that if there was ever a bad shot or performance from someone else in a specific scene, he could just use editing to cut to Renner, who could just be like looking at a napkin and it would make the scene work. Again, he was nominated for an Academy Award for his performance in this 2 years after The Hurt Locker, right? 2008 was Hurt Locker?
Hurt Locker was 2000. It was the year The Dark Knight came out.
Yeah, 2008.
2008, yeah. That's how I remember movies. Based
Yeah,
on when
based
The
on-
Dark Knight came out.
That's how I remember what point of my life I was at. What year did Inception come out? Okay,
2
yeah.
years after Dark Knight,
2008.
so 2010.
Yeah, it's easy with Nolan because he makes a movie every 2 years, except for obviously COVID.
What's so cool about this movie, and I want to check this out. So Ben Affleck said that the original cut was 4 hours long.
I'll watch that.
Yeah, and after realizing that the film would never appeal to wide audiences, he cut the film down to 2 hours and 50 minutes. However, the studio loved that cut, but they wanted 2 hours and 10 minutes. So he whittled it down to 2 hours and 10 minutes because they wanted more screenings, more money. Unfortunately, it's just they got to get their way because they're funding it.
It feels like that. It feels like there's some stuff that's kind of on the chopping floor that would have worked.
There's a scene in the third act after Rebecca Hall's character. I'm sorry, what's her name? Claire. By the way, Rebecca Hall is fabulous in this movie. We'll talk about her more in a little bit, but she's also one of the best actors of the film. After she finds out about Doug being part of that crew, and he goes to her apartment, and he walks inside. The door was unlocked, and then he finds her crying in the bathroom with the phone in her hand, threatening to call the police. Right? You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, I remember.
That seemed like there was 5 minutes before that of them maybe fighting on the other side of the door. You know what I mean?
It's possible.
That's what from the way the way it's staged and the way the first dialogue comes out, it seems as though their scene led to that moment rather than him just going inside. That seemed like a scene that was whittled down.
I bet you a bunch of the shootouts were whittled down too, especially the Fenway Park one, because it's a long sequence, the Fenway heist, which I can't wait to talk about. And the first robbery, that first heist, it's efficient as hell when it comes from a filmmaking standpoint. It has to be. It's the opening heist, so you got to make it quick. You got to make it snazzy because you got to get to the character. You got to get to the character development. You got to get Act 1 to 2 rolling. But then the second heist, maybe that's the one that's maybe a little overlong, but the chase sequence is awesome. So I don't mind it at all, that long chase sequence, because, in the van, then getting chased by the cruisers, and then switching to the Jeep Cherokee and then racing to the bridge. It's an awesome, awesome sequence, as well as spraying the machine guns for the first time in the movie. It's great. So the second heist is pretty long. Maybe it doesn't have to be that long, but I don't mind it at all. But the Fenway heist, this is a long sequence that I'm sure there's probably 10 minutes of the Fenway job that's on the floor.
Yeah, I think that most common sequences cut out of films like this, not sequences, but even just trimmed scenes, are action sequences, because they probably film a ton. They want to get enough coverage, and the editor and filmmaker, you can imagine, and I would feel like we would be like this if we made an awesome action scene. You'd want all of it in,
Yeah.
and you film it all, be like, oh, this is epic, but then you realize it's 40 minutes, and then you definitely have to whittle it down. So I think that you're right. I think the Fenway scene might have been longer, but that being said, it is an excellent sequence. We could just go into the Fenway sequence right now.
Well, how about we got to go to intermission.
Oh, yes.
I say we go heist by heist.
Okay, 1, 2, 3.
Let's talk about more of the characters, then we'll
Yeah.
go to the second heist, then we'll go to the third heist. Fenway, let's save it for the climax, man. We
save
gotta
it.
keep people excited for the end of the episode. All right? I mean, we gotta market the episode.
It's a wicked awesome
Yeah,
episode,
we got
guy.
a cliffhanger here. But let's head to our intermission, and we'll get back to the town. And before we continue, the best way to support Raiders of the Lost podcast is to share us with your family and friends. If they love movies, send them the show. If they love Boston, if they're from Massachusetts, send them this episode on the town. We've done Good Will Hunting. We've done so many bangers from Massachusetts. And also, leaving those 5-star ratings and reviews are an incredible way to help support us and help us get seen by new people. Spotify, Apple. It's a great place to do those ratings. In Apple, we get to read your written reviews. We'll do one in about a minute. And you can also become a patron at patreon.com/Raiders of the Lost Podcast. This is a subscription-based form of support. Every single patron has access to 2 weekly bonus episodes of the show. No one else can view them except for patrons. It's pretty awesome. There are 5 tiers: $2, $5, $10, $25, and $100. Every tier has specific perks that just get better and better as you go up the ladder. For example, $10, you get access to our Discord where we have watch parties. We chat with you all the time. It's a lot of fun. It's a great community. $25, you get a custom episode as well as some free merch. You pick a topic and we'll do it for you. And $100, it's just, there's so many perks I don't have time to list them off.
It's a wicked awesome perk.
It's insane.
It's a wicked awesome perk, guy.
It's bonkers how many. We should take some away. It's ridiculous. Like, you can come on the show for a fun guest segment after 3 months.
You join the Deveney family.
Yeah.
Janice adopts you.
I adopt you. And then you have a
You
private,
get Juno.
private watch party. It's amazing. So thank you to everyone who is a patron. Sign up with the description. In the description of this episode, there'll be a link.
And thank you to our sponsor, movieposters.com, the #1 place to get your movie posters online today. Be sure to use our promo code Raiders10 at movieposters.com to get 10% off your order right now. They have a huge selection of pretty much every movie and TV show imaginable in their poster library. They also do our bi-monthly movie poster giveaway contest. We just did one last week from our Blade Runner 2049 episode. We're also doing the movie poster contest right now this week. In order to enter for a chance to win a free movie poster, all you have to do is head on over to the Midnight Ruin IMDb page, leave a rating, screenshot that rating, and DM it to us on Instagram. Again, head on over to our short film Midnight Ruin, its IMDb page, leave us a rating, screenshot that, and DM us that screenshot on Instagram. That'll enter you into the movie poster giveaway contest. We'll announce the winner next week. Good luck, everybody. And in the meantime, be sure to use Raiders10, our coupon code at movieposters.com, to get 10% off your order right now.
And let's get into our intermission and begin with the movie quote competition. You ready, Anthony?
Oh, yeah.
Here we go.
I don't know. Well, yeah, what movie is he, man?
I'm no martyr. I did it for the money. But it's not worth much if you can't face yourself in the mirror. Respect is the ultimate currency. I was stealing from a man who traded his away for a few dollars. And then he tried to wash away his guilt, drown it in a lifetime of good deeds in a sea of respectability. It almost worked, too. But inevitably, the further you run from your sins, the more exhausted you are when they catch up to you. And they do. Certain. It will not fail.
Inside Man?
Yeah.
Nice. Hell yes. Hell yes. Is it Denzel's character or Jodie's character?
It's actually Clive Owen's character.
Clive
Dalton.
Owen. Oh, fuck yeah. I forgot he was in it. Like, obviously, the guy who's the fucking narrator of the movie.
I want you to pay attention very closely to what I'm going to say.
I might watch that soon.
I love that
It's great.
opening shot of that movie, too. It's brilliant.
Okay, here's my quote. Dad, I may not be the best, but I come to believe that I got it in me to be somebody in this world. And it's not because I'm so different from you either. It's because I'm the same. I mean, I can be just as hard-headed and just as tough. I only hope you can be as good a man as you.
Came into the second half with an accent there.
Yeah, he's got a slight accent.
I have no idea.
October Sky. Gyllenhaal talking to his dad, played by Chris Cooper. Chris Cooper guy.
Name Howard?
Howard. No, Homer.
Homer?
Homer.
That's his first name in the movie?
Let me double check.
Homer, Howard
His name's
Homer.
Homer Simpson.
Howard Homer.
October Sky. Gyllenhaal's character is Homer Hickam.
Homer Hickam.
Homer
yeah.
Hickam.
Isn't that what I just said?
No, you said Homer Howard. Howard Homer.
Moving on to guess this movie release year. What year did Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels come out?
1998.
Yeah.
2 for 2, baby.
Wow, he's on fire today. Don't let it go to your head.
What year did October Sky come out?
What did I get? Is this before or after Donnie Darko? 1998.
99.
99.
0 for 2.
All right, movie pop quiz time. Who starred in the original The Italian Job?
You were supposed to blow the damn doors off.
I won't bury another.
It's Michael Caine.
I won't bury
You're
another.
only supposed to blow the damn doors off. They blow up the whole car.
he hooks up with 7 different women in the first 25 minutes of that movie. It's insane. It's insane.
He's very cool.
The 70s, man. They were like, fuck it.
He's very suave in
Was
that
it
movie.
60s? It's like 60.
That was 67 or something?
68
Something
or
like that?
69.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because the whole car blows up.
Yeah, the whole thing. That's where that famous quote's from. You're supposed to blow the doors off. Man, 3 for 3. How you like them? How you like them apples? All right, my quiz question. Chris Cooper appeared in what Mel Gibson movie?
Oh, come on, man. The Patriot.
Hell yeah. Plays the Colonel.
Easy peasy, lemon squeezy.
Oh, yeah. Probably the first thing we saw him in.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. That was a huge movie.
That movie was fucking awesome.
That was a big movie.
We
in
should do it
Massachusetts.
because people love that movie.
Patriot's epic.
Patriot's awesome.
He's terrible at making chairs too.
Yeah, they never like stand straight, right?
No, they always collapse.
They collapse.
They
Oh
look
yeah, when he
nice.
sits on
Whenever
it.
he sits on, he's
Yeah.
in the opening. He's like, "Oh, it actually worked." Then he crashes.
That movie, it's got that charm to it.
It does.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It has so much of a tonal range.
It's like there was a year in the 2000s where just movies changed forever, and like that tone that used to work, especially in these long movies
Yeah.
and war movies, even it worked.
because
really
that's a big movie. It's got a lot of disturbing sequences, a lot of violence, but then it's got that charm to it and that nice little light comedy.
the Black Teeth tea.
Yeah, oh my
the great,
God,
the ink
I love the
tea.
bla-
That's
the
great.
ink
See,
tea,
yeah,
yeah.
stuff like
Ink
that. It's
teeth
very
is great.
cute. That's why. Oh man, when he dies in that movie, it's so sad. You just think about the life they would have had, and then when the church gets burned down. Oh man. it's a
And
great
then with the
movie.
bullets, you're like, he better kill all the fucking British with those bullets.
I love revenge movies.
Yeah.
I adore them.
Gibson was big revenge.
And
guy.
what's cool about that movie is he just takes down the redcoats himself. It's just like
Remember the meme I made? So I made a video meme when Dune got pushed to
Oh, yeah.
2024, and I made the meme of
after axing.
yeah, when he's literally axing the last guy, and he looks up and looks at his kids covered in blood in slow motion, and the kid's like, "Oh shit!"
That's how I
and
felt.
It was like POV me when they pushed Dune to 2024.
Still not over it. Moving on. We have any haters this week, Anthony?
Oh yeah,
Any
we got some haters.
do we have some real haters or
We
just-
do have a real hater.
All right,
Yes.
cool.
Do you have a real hater?
No.
Okay, so 1 second, I just got a ton of screenshots here. It was a real hater.
They're just
and-
screenshots of selfies of himself.
I'll get to the unsubscribes first. So we got some on our Midnight Ruin posts. Chipotle wrote, "I followed you guys for a movie podcast, not a short film. Unsubscribe."
That's fucking great.
Oh my god,
That's the best comment
I
ever.
fucking died when I saw that. Leo Garvey wrote, "No after scene credits to tease the next movie. Unsubscribed."
Yeah, but it would have been funny if we did that and like Nick Fury shows up.
Dude, for real. Oh my god. I'm sorry, I'm still cackling
All
about that
you
one.
guys for a podcast, not a short film.
So we have a real hater on our TikTok post about Midnight Ruin when it dropped, asking people to watch the film. This guy named Bob on TikTok wrote, "A short film is just a fancy way of saying YouTube video." But then our guy
That's really rude.
Braden, our fan, wrote, he responded, "They hate us because they ain't us."
They give Academy Awards to short films.
Jesus, dude. And then I'm not sure if this is.
It's okay. The only short films he watches
Yeah.
are on Cornhub, so
Yeah.
it's fine. He watches 5 a night.
And that's it for unsubscribes. But we got so many great comments, so many great reviews in Letterboxd of Midnight Ruin, like a lot of like the joke ones. So in our next Letterboxd episode, I think it'd be fun to read the funniest Midnight
think so,
Ruin
too.
reviews.
That'd be great.
because they're so funny. Like it's great comedy in our fan base.
We got a bunch of funny listeners. We have a great 5-star review on Apple Podcasts from Lexi. Amazing film and TV podcast. I should have written a review sooner rather than later. Their content is not only amazing, but relatable, yet adds depth into cinema I didn't even know to add. I thought I was a movie TV buff, but these guys take the cake. It's so hard to find podcast content that can make it fun to watch and listen to. I love sharing their content with family and friends. I even made another social media account just to follow them again. What? If that doesn't scream ultimate movie and TV podcast, I don't know what does. Lexi, that's very sweet.
Lexi, thanks for all the analytics. Two accounts.
Hey, who else has done 2 accounts? All you listeners need to step your game up. You only have one account that you follow us from? Come on.
Numbers.
Yeah, we need to bump those numbers up. Lexi, thank you for the review. We appreciate it. We're almost at 1,800 on Apple Podcasts
for
reviews.
There.
We're like 1,782, so let's get those numbers up, everybody.
Chugging along. We are chugging along.
Now, my streaming recommendation for this episode is another heist film, The Place Beyond the Pines. I can't recommend it enough. It's like a half heist film, half coming-of-age epic. Stars has it right now. But you can also get like the 7-day free trial on Amazon if you get it.
It's a great movie.
We gotta cover it. We gotta cover it. People love it.
I mean,
it stars literally me. I think that might be the best movie joke in years. Is just every guy saying they're Ryan Gosling. It's so great. It's.
How did it happen?
I don't know.
Where did this come from?
From Drive.
Yeah. Where did that literally me start? Like, it's one of those things where it's just like some random comment started it all. Yeah, imagine that one comment.
It started because like so many guys like, oh, like I'm so much like Driver and Driver. I'm like Ryan Gosling. I think like we're so full of hubris that we think we're Ryan Gosling. Like I look like Ryan Gosling. Yeah, I'm totally. That's like totally me.
Literally me.
It's because he's so cool.
Who was the first person to write literally me in a comment?
We gotta find them.
I'm just so curious how who
about Ryan Gosling.
That started the fires. Like what that first one was. And then someone else saw that, and they wrote literally me, and then it's just started fucking a chain reaction.
The really cool thing about it, though, is it's literally me.
Shut up.
In this movie, Place Beyond the Pines.
I have a special streaming recommendation tonight. Midnight Ruin.
Oh, yeah.
It's this great short film made by a couple of Bostonian brothers.
Yeah, kid. Putting Waltham on the map, baby.
Oh, yeah. It's available on YouTube. It's a great short film, 18 minutes long, and I highly recommend you check it out.
I really wish my cameo didn't get cut, though.
People have been asking about it. We're going to release the director's cut.
Yeah, the director's cut will have a lot more scenes.
Yeah, James had a great scene, and we had to cut it, unfortunately.
It's pretty good.
People still quote it. People who saw it, they quote it to me sometimes. It was that great.
It was pretty good.
It just didn't work for the short.
Yeah, we had to cut some scenes.
Yeah,
it was too long.
But Midnight Ruin available on YouTube. Feel free to leave us a rating on IMDb and Letterboxd. Now, let's get into our superlatives for the town.
Oh, yeah, and then we'll get back into the town.
Now, I think you just had an aneurysm.
And also, we should go over the Boston slang in this movie.
Oh, yeah, let's do that after. So, for superlatives, who is your MVP of the town?
It's Matt. I mean,
Matt David.
Matt David. It's just the association with that, man. It's Ben Affleck, writing, directing, acting in it. He doesn't give the best performance in the movie, but he's the star of this entire production. He's it. It's him.
Plus, he plays the stoic archetype.
Yeah.
So it's less showy of a performance. But I also have Ben Affleck. I also have Matt Damon as my MVP of the town.
Well, what's so great about him with this movie is he didn't like overplay his hand. He didn't try to overcomplicate his performance specifically or overshadow anyone. He let everyone just cook. He let Jeremy Renner cook his ass off in this movie. He let Robert Elswit cook his ass off. He just everyone do like surrounding himself with such talented people was the key.
It was a buffet.
Yeah, it was a buffet of delicious meals. Michelin star meal. He just cooked his ass off.
Who is the best actor of the town?
Jeremy Renner.
I also agree. I have Jeremy Renner, and then I have Rebecca Hall as a follow-up. What is the best shot or your favorite shot of the town?
Oh, this is a great one. So it's during the Fenway heist, and I believe it was in the trailer.
Oh my God, I think I have the same one.
My only problem with it is it's so short-lived. So
it's the same shot. Oh my God, hold on. Can we mime it?
No. Well, not everyone's watching. Yeah. So during the heist, I believe it's after Glones gets shot.
Yeah.
And then Dougie picks up the machine gun out of the ambulance and lifts it up to his shoulder over his head and starts firing. And it's a camera-mounted shot to the rifle. It's awesome.
I have the same fucking shot.
But it's only a second long.
Yeah.
If I ever met Ben Affleck, I'd be like, is there a 10-second shot of that? Because It's so epic, and I love it. I wish it was longer.
Dude, I picked the same shot.
Yeah.
And also, I clearly remembered it from the trailer being... Like, the trailer ended with that shot.
The trailer slapped for the time, man.
The trailer slapped, but the last thing we saw was Ben Affleck fucking firing the machine gun, like, right at the camera in that shot. And that's my favorite shot of the movie, too, because I've never seen a camera placement during a gun firing of I don't know if that's a submachine gun that he's carrying, but just the camera placement of it. He's like not shooting directly at the camera lens, but like just off.
It feels like it's mounted to the camera.
It's just
to the
like
gun.
But like we're right up on it, and it's just like it works, and it's such a great shot. It's one of my favorite like shootout shots I've ever seen.
I wonder if there's an edit in a cut where it's longer, but maybe
Yeah.
it was like too much of a good thing.
Maybe but also I agree. When I watched it last night, I was like, oh fuck, if that was a 3-second shot, it's only 1 second.
Yeah, it's barely a second.
But man, it is maybe something happened in that shot where the camera tilted or something.
Yeah.
So that maybe that's as long as they could go with that shot.
It feels like I gotta watch it again, but it feels like they mounted it right to the gun.
Yeah.
Or something.
I think they did a steady cam right up in front of Ben.
True.
That's what I think they did.
That might be it, but it's awesome. Maybe they broke a camera.
I can't believe we picked the same fucking shot. That's great.
It's fucking awesome.
It's so
shot.
amazing.
It's an awesome shot.
Oh my god, I'm putting that on TikTok. All right, what is the best scene?
The best scene of this movie is hands down the Fenway sequence, even though it's really long. I would say the point where the moment where it gets quiet inside Fenway, and then Dougie looks around and realizes that, oh, we're about to be raided by SWAT and tactical team. So I think that's when it starts to really take off. But I would also say, actually, I think the opening heist is just great. I'm going to say the opening heist.
That's a great pick. I picked the Fenway heist just because it was fucking Fenway.
Yeah, but it's like 30
I picked
minutes.
the whole thing. I want the whole thing. All of it.
Num 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 nums.
I didn't see the Fenway monster though.
Who, Wally?
Wally.
What, Willie?
Wally. So the Boston Red Sox mascot is named Wally, and he's just like this green furry monster.
Well, they added Tessie recently.
Tessie. Oh yeah, I remember.
Like 5 years ago, Tessie's a mascot.
Imagine
too.
if Wally got shot.
He gets like shot in the stomach. Feel a little woozy here, guys.
How could you do that to good old Wally?
Everything feels weird and fuzzy. I don't feel so good.
Oh my god,
Wally the Green Monster.
Oh my god, that's so funny. Okay, final superlative. What is the best line of the movie?
Best line of the movie, it's gotta be when Dougie, after he's talking to Claire and she talks about how some of the kids in the hood, they were throwing bottles at her, and as she's in the projects walking to her car, and they messed up her car and tagged it up, and it's in the shop. He's like, oh, well, he's like, gets upset. He's like, oh, do you remember what they look like? And then he goes inside, he goes home and he talks to Jem, and he goes, I need your help with something. I can't tell you what we're going to do, and you can't ask me about it later, and we're going to hurt some people. And then Jem just goes, whose car are we going to take?
Great line. Someone responded with a GIF to that on Twitter.
It's great.
It's great. My favorite line is during the Fenway heist, the early stages of it, when they first subdue the security guards outside of the money room, and then Doug goes up to the door of the money room, and he tells both the guys inside, the money counters, the names of their wives and their addresses to basically threaten, we'll kill your wives if you don't open this door.
The Lindas want you to open this door.
Can I say my quote?
I didn't know you were going to.
Oh my god!
Sorry.
Jesus.
I didn't know you were going to say that.
That's my favorite line, where he goes, the Lindas want you to open the door. But James ruined it. Thanks for blowing up my spot, man.
This is funny though.
It is funny, yeah. But I love it. It's because it's a very intense situation. But then there's that line. It's just funny. And also, Linda is such a fucking common name in Boston. It's so common.
Well, what's so great about this movie is in many of the intense moments, there are great moments of humor. Like after the armored truck heist, the nun outfits, they swap their cars, they make it over the bridge in time before they close it. and then they stop to do the third
Sorry, hold on.
switch.
This old lady with the nun.
I'm sorry. The old woman who worked in a church her whole life as a nun outfit. And then they go to swap the car again, and they get out of the Jeep, and there's just a cop in a cruiser looking right at them. You're like, oh my God, and then the cop just turns his head. It's really funny.
That's actually based on a real story. So Ben Affleck said that scene he heard from a bank robber he interviewed. So the scene where the cop turns away when he sees the masked armed robbers getting away is based on that actual event during his research.
It was me. I was the robber. Well, people think that this movie's based on my life, but it's only a loose adaptation.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing that says like hardcore robber like James Deveney.
There was a time. There was a time.
Oh, let's get to the second heist.
Oh, slang first.
Slang.
So there's a good amount of Boston slang in this movie, not a ton. I don't even. Do they say wicked in this movie?
I didn't hear wicked at all.
So wicked for us means very, like wicked cool, wicked fun, wicked hot.
So we never say something is wicked. That's a British thing. They'll say like in Harry Potter, "Oh, that's wicked."
Well, then it'll either mean cool or evil for
exactly.
people in the UK.
But in Boston and in New England, pretty much, we say wicked like you said as an adverb. It's wicked cool. Wicked that party was wicked fun. The game was wicked crazy. So you don't say something is wicked. You say something is wicked something.
Exactly. And there's not a ton of Boston slang list, but there's a good amount. So Toonie is one of the funnier ones. Toonie's basically someone, technically it's very specific for someone who's not from Charlestown. And so you call someone not from Charlestown a Toonie, but it can also kind of mean yuppie or someone who, but yuppie for us means someone who's affluent, uppity, from a nice area, a nice town.
From Chestnut Hill,
Newton, something like
Lincoln.
that. Lincoln, they're Richie Rich Lexington. That's a yuppie. And
I still use that term.
but not everyone in Lexington's a yuppie, but there are yuppies because we probably have listeners in Lexington.
But real quick, some of my favorite Boston slangs that's not in this movie is we call shopping carts carriages.
Yeah.
So a shopping cart is a carriage.
Trash cans we call barrels.
Barrel. So I still say barrel sometimes, and I'll ask someone, "Where's your barrel?" And they'll look at me like I'm crazy.
Like a wooden barrel with beer.
Yeah. It's
Malt liquor.
a liquor store is called a packy. A packy.
Packy. That comes from packing house from back in Prohibition days.
And then we said it earlier. Cigarettes are called butts. So smoke a butt, rip a butt.
I think that's pretty.
I'm not sure if
Kind of universal.
I'm not sure.
Well, more specific to packies and liquor, those little mini bottles of alcohol, we call them nips.
Nips. That's right. Water fountain. So like a fountain you drink out of, we call it a bubbler.
What if you're drinking out of like the fountain at the mall?
You still call that
No, it's a joke.
Yeah. with the pennies in it.
Bubbler. Hey, where's the bubbler?
Where's the fucking bubbler guy? There's a difference between, I mean, some people say pop, some people say soda. We grew up saying soda.
Yeah, but our dad said pop.
Dad says pop, yeah.
I have a funny story about bubbler where I went to college in Western Massachusetts, so they don't really have the Boston slang out there. And I remember, I think it was my freshman year, I was just walking through the hallways and I was parched. And so I was walking and I couldn't find a bubbler, and then some random girl was walking down the hallway and I stopped her. I'm like, "Hey, excuse me, do you know where there's a bubbler?" And she's like, "A what?" I'm like, "Oh, a water fountain." So even in Western Massachusetts, bubbler and Boston slang isn't used very often.
So another great one that doesn't make any sense for anyone outside of the area, we call milkshakes fraps. So you don't get a milkshake, you go get a frap. So I didn't even know what the term milkshake was until I was a teenager.
We used to go to Friendly's and get Oreo fraps.
Yeah. And also speaking of fraps, so we call chocolate sprinkles jimmies.
Yeah.
So if you get ice cream and you want chocolate sprinkles, you say, "Can I get some vanilla ice? Can I get 2 scoops of vanilla ice cream with jimmies?" And they'll throw the chocolate sprinkles on top.
But you don't call the rainbow sprinkles jimmies, you call them sprinkles.
Yeah, you just call them sprinkles. The Cape Cod is just called the Cape.
The Cape Kid.
The Cape.
We say kid a lot, so they say it in this movie too. We say kid. It's a term of endearment for your friends.
Yeah.
Kid.
So, we say pissa. Well, our dad says pissa. We don't really say pissa. That's an older term.
Yeah, it's a generational thing. Yeah.
But people who are probably over the age of 40, people commonly say the word pissa as awesome. So, that's pissa, or that's wicked pissa. That game was pissa last night. We destroyed the Lakers. It was great. So pissa means awesome.
I said a slang word a few times this episode already. I said cruiser.
Yes.
Now that's what we call police cars in Massachusetts. A cruiser, like a police cruiser or a state police cruiser or a statey. That's what we call state police.
Statey, yeah. Also, so one of the main highways in Boston is the Mass Turnpike. We just call it the Pike.
The Pike Kid.
The Pike guy.
Pit.
The train station. I mean, the trains in Boston. We call the T.
The MBTA.
Yeah, it's just called the T. The fucking T guy. Also, the last one. Roundabouts in Boston and in New England are called rotaries, not roundabouts. We never use the word roundabout. We always say rotary.
I mean, yeah. Then saying something like banging a Yui. That's a
Banging
U-turn.
a Yui, yeah. Banging a Yui is a U-turn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so many.
Yeah.
Dunks, donkeys. Yeah. There's a ton. But a couple others in the movie, they say tuned up. Like he got tuned up. That means you got beat up. Like real bad. That guy got tuned up.
Real bad guy.
And then parlor. So Dougie's father says parlor. He says you were puking, you got sick in parlor. Parlor's a living room. But parlor's an old one. People don't really say it that often anymore.
And
Generational,
another
for sure.
old one is calling your basement a cellar. The
Cellar, yeah.
The cellar.
Cellar.
Go down in the cellar. Go down in the cellar. Get us a couple waters. The fridge downstairs.
All right, let's get back into the movie.
So, a couple of the other actors we haven't spoken about. Rebecca Hall is an extremely talented actor, and this was during the early rise of her career. She was in The Prestige in 2006, also in Vicky Cristina Barcelona, and then The Town was a really big hit for her as being like a main actor in the film. Because The Prestige, she's probably fifth or sixth billed, but in this film, she's pretty much one of the main supporting actors. And it's a big hit movie, so it's really big for Hollywood to be in this movie and be a lead in it. And then after this, she was in Iron Man 3, and her doing the solo lead films and horror films and a bunch of other great movies. But this, I think, was a big moment in her career to put her on the map in Hollywood and America.
She just made her directorial debut with Passing a couple of years ago in 2021, I believe, which was at Sundance Film Festival.
It was 2020.
Was it 2020?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No,
it was.
2021.
2021. And she's terrific in this movie. She's very charming. It's a tough role because the opening sequence, she is the bank manager. She does a great job being terrified, obviously, but then also connecting with this robber for a moment who calms her down to open the safe. And then she has to play this role of this character who has gone through such a traumatic experience of being a part, not just a bank robbery at the bank, but being a hostage, and then being let go, blindfolded, and then working with the FBI for the first half of the film, trying to do what she can to give them information about the robbers. But then, towards the end of the film, now that it's revealed that Dougie is one of the robbers, one of the suspects, now she's going to potentially be a suspect as well, and she has to basically try to figure out how to get herself out of trouble, even though technically she didn't really do anything wrong. She got duped in a lot of ways by Dougie, which you understand why she's so upset, but she has to protect herself because Dougie screws her, basically, because once it gets picked up on the FBI's tailing of her and listening on her phones, they hear Dougie's voice, they assume she might be in on the whole thing.
Yeah, from the outsider's perspective, she got a brand new, very expensive necklace. She has a relationship with the bank robber. She quit her job and she's going to be moving. So too many things adding up to the possibility of her definitely being involved. So you're right. He does basically put her in a horrible spot just by starting the relationship with her. Although it's still better than what Jem wanted to do. And Jem pretty much implied that it might be good to first scare her, intimidate
she ain't
her,
scared enough,
and then maybe even take her out. So that's why Doug takes over.
Oh, he definitely wanted to take her out. He's
Yeah.
like, should we remove her from the equation? What are you, a trigger man now?
What do you mean? Who the fuck do you think you are? You're the reason why we're in this situation.
Yeah, Jem is a problem. He does get them into bad situations, but you understand because him and Dougie have such strong history together. Like I said earlier, Dougie, after his mother left and obviously he didn't know that she had died and committed suicide. He thought she was abandoned. Obviously, his father is off in prison after he gets pinched. He gets taken in by Jem's family and is a part of their home. They're brothers, basically. You know, they're thick as thieves, as they say. And Dougie, we get a little backstory later on in the film of why Jem was in prison for 9 years at Walpole. He killed a guy that was going to go kill Dougie. He said, I heard that this guy was going up to you with a 9mm, and so I found him first, and I took him out myself. So you don't have to thank me for what I did, but you're not fucking leaving.
I put him in the ground. He was rolling up on you with the Glock.
Exactly. So I rolled up on him first, and so he saved Dougie's life, and Dougie owes him, and Dougie knows he owes Jem. That's why He says yes to the second heist, even though he's not excited about it. He's like this. The guy he tucks his boots, he tucks his pants into his combat boots. He wears his vest on the outside. He thinks he's goddamn G.I. Joe. It's a bad score, but they do it anyways because he knows he owes Jem his life. And same thing with the Fenway job. He knows he owes Jem his life. He wants Jem. That's why Jem's pushing it to go faster, as well as obviously Fergie kind of blackmails him in a lot of ways.
And also, Jem, he's such a loose cannon, and he's so unpredictable. There's a fear that he might even take Doug out eventually, because when they have that argument and that little tussle outside of the cemetery where he put that guy down, Jem whacks him in the head with his pistol, and that subdues Doug to sit down and basically ends the fight. But Jem's just still holding on to that pistol, and you're like, man, he would fucking kill him if he wanted to. Like, I think that Doug is in danger from Jem if he doesn't do what he wants, as well as owing him. But also, Jem, I think, would kill him.
It's possible. I mean, It's possible because, Jem is such a wild card. He talks about how, like, I'm not going to prison again. He's like, the funny thing about prison is all the people pretending they want to get out. He's like, I can't do any more time. I'm done. If we get in a pinch, I'm going out. We're going to go out guns blazing. And
so he does.
He is prepared to die, Jem is. That's an interesting point.
I love Jem's death. It's one of the most realistic looking deaths I've ever seen in a movie, and it really struck me the first time I saw it because we've seen so many action movies where a guy gets shot dead center in the forehead with a drop of blood going down. Like, how many times is that? Like, perfectly centered. And it's so ridiculous, that kind of accuracy. But Jem, when he gets shot, and Ben shoots it, he does 2 shots. He does like a medium and then a very wide. And he gets shot twice, and then he cuts to the wide, and he gets shot multiple times. But he gets shot in the cheek, and in like the bottom left of his jaw. And it's like what more realistic gun wounds would look like. And also the way that like the hole is just sunk into his face. It's not like a little dot. It's like really just caved in that area of his face and his cheek and his jaw, and then a couple of stuff like his shoulder and chest. So I think that Renner's death in the town is one of the most accurate looking gun deaths I've ever seen.
Yeah. Plus he goes out guns blazing with empty magazines with no weapons. However, there is a headshot in this movie with Glonzy.
Yes.
He gets taken out dead center.
But that's different because you're talking about SWAT, sniper, extremely accurate, and they're waiting for them to pop up. And also, he was standing there for, you could assume, a few seconds.
Oh, no, it wasn't Glonzy. It was the other one. It's Desi.
The Desi, yeah.
After the flash grenades.
That headshot I get because it's an experienced sniper of the SWAT team.
What I really like about this movie, besides the heists, is obviously we have the perspective of the police and obviously the FBI, which sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. But I think it works really well in this film because John Hamm's awesome in this movie, and the FBI agent he plays, he's not perfect. He's not a perfect guy. He does things unorthodox as well, and he's willing to get his hands dirty in order to catch these guys by kind of forging evidence to try to bring them in to try to get a confession, which obviously they have nothing on him. He's like, get me a print, get me something that looks like a print so I can bring these guys in. This is the no fucking around crew, and that's what's going to happen with us. We're not going to fuck around either anymore. And what's actually legitimate about this movie is the tracing of evidence and discovering of evidence, because they are untouchable. They can't get a thing about these guys, not really until at first they discover the lead from Vericom, where Desi worked at Vericom. There are records of him working there, which is the only way that they could have shut down the security at the bank heist to be able to get in there like that. So I think it was a really clever way to have legitimate ways of discovering who the crew is, as well as the surveillance and everything like that.
And they didn't have much to bring them in for questioning, but it got to the point where they had so little that we just need to bring them in. And then after that sequence, they're tracing their calls, and that's how they get the tapped call of Doug talking to Claire. But I do enjoy the interrogation scene, especially between Doug and FBI agent Adam Frawley. But also, I mean, like I said earlier, Titus Welliver as Dino Campa, he's fantastic as well in this scene, and they have that great back and forth about, like you said earlier, Doug looks at him as a rat. You're from Charlestown. These people, they raised you. They told you all their secrets, everything you need to know about them, and then you use it against them to arrest them and lock them up. So you're a rat. And it's interesting to look at. He's not like ratting on anyone like a rival gang, like a rival criminal, but being a cop and arresting your own kind, essentially. Like Charlestown people look at themselves as even separate from anyone else, like they're their own people in their own community, and he, as a police officer, has been betraying that community.
Yeah, it's like the opening credits with the quote from the man from Massachusetts, like the anonymous man says, Charlestown, literally, I'm proud to be from Charlestown. It literally ruined my life, but I'm proud. They're very proud people if you're from Charlestown.
Yeah, I think that growing up, there's like this rep quality based upon what neighborhood you're from. And the rougher the neighborhood, the cooler you were. And this is like teenage years and high school years. And if you went to a party or a social situation of any kind, there would be people would talk about where they're from. And Charlestown, Southie, Lowell, Brockton, these are all Roxbury, West Roxbury. These are rough neighborhoods. They're tough areas. And so there's kind of like there was this clout factor when we were growing up. And if you were from any of these neighborhoods, like it elevated you in terms of social stance and like the social hierarchy. It didn't depend. And also like Bostonians don't give a shit about money or wealth. It doesn't matter if you're rich or not. That has no say on social status at all. It's all about where you're from. And it's actually kind of reversed from many other communities. So the poorer, rougher neighborhood you're from, the cooler, more clout you have.
I wouldn't say it's cool.
Not
it's
cool,
just
yeah.
like the clout.
Yeah, the clout. Socially, it kind of puts you up in the social status.
You're more Boston.
It's an interesting dynamic that you don't see often.
Yeah, it's like you're the most Boston at wherever you are.
You're like the toughest because you're from a tough area.
Yeah, rep is really important.
Yeah.
And I mean, when it comes to heists, that first heist is terrific. The second heist is great as well, where they're taking down an armored truck. Again, Dougie doesn't like this heist. The guy, G.I. Joe, doesn't like it. It's too dangerous. It's too risky. But Jem's forcing his hand, basically. And so they do it, and everything goes well up until the security guard gets the drop on one of them, and then Jem kills him. Now, this is a huge problem for Doug and his crew because, of course, armed robbery is a lot. If you get caught, you're going to prison for a long time. However, manslaughter and murder, you're getting life sentences. You're going to jail for the rest of your life. So that's why it's a big deal to Doug, and he doesn't like this situation. It's just like when he takes Jem to go beat those guys up to tune them up because of the story Claire told him. And then Jem takes it a little too far. He takes the gun out and shows his face. And then in the car, Doug says something, listen, I'm not ready to go out and kill people. Like, I'm not that's not me. And then Jem goes, well, that's what happens when you bring me. Like, you invited me. That's who I am.
Yeah.
So if you start murdering and start killing, it's the same thing with hostage taking. It's upping the sentences of your crime if you get caught.
Exactly. And
obviously it's morally horrible.
100%. And the strength of the second sequence isn't the heist part, but the chase sequence. And the chase sequence, like we said earlier, is fantastic. Dynamic filmmaking, excellent cinematography. You don't lose sight of what's going on. The Ellsworth and Affleck and company did a great job of making sure the audience was well aware of the surroundings and all the pieces of the chase. And like we said earlier, having a car chase through Boston, through these winding streets, through these narrow areas, never seen it before on screen. And I remember everybody talking about it. There was a lot of buzz about this movie in the city before it came out and talking about how, oh my God, we're getting a chase scene in Beacon Hill. Oh my God, a car, like shootout in the North End, shootout. Like what? Oh my God, this is amazing. Like it was just so cool. Never seen it before. I mean, just the brick architecture. And the sequence is excellent. These guys are so prepared. They know where to go. They know where their Jeep Cherokee is going to be. They park in a way that it obstructs the other vehicles. And they also, when they're shooting at, like spraying bullets at these cops, they're not shooting to kill. You can clearly see they're shooting to get the cops away from them.
Oh, they kill the cops in this one.
Do they?
Some of them, yeah.
Do they?
They say to take out the engine blocks,
Yeah.
but they definitely spray the windshields as well.
I think you might be right. But they do burn up that car immediately.
Because before they start killing, that's the plan, is to take out the engine blocks. That's when Dougie's giving like the pep talk basically before the first heist. And he's saying take out the engine block, or before the heist, like shoot the engine blocks.
I think you're wrong because when Frawley interrogates Doug after this, they're not wanted for murder because that security guard survived. He said he's clinging on for life. I'm not sure any cops got killed in this sequence.
It looks like it, but maybe not.
They definitely got killed in the Fenway sequence.
They definitely sprayed the windshields, though.
They did spray.
I mean, you gotta get out of there.
Yeah.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
But it's a great chase, and then obviously the chase to get to the bridge before it's closed off.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
Swapping cars a couple times, lighting the van on fire and creating a blockage. It's crazy cool and also very clever. And even though it didn't go to plan, they got away and they got the money and obviously paid their dues to Fergie. Now, there's a relationship in this film that's really important to Doug as a character, which might leave people guessing is why he doesn't stay with Krista, why he doesn't have a relationship with Krista, and is Shine, the daughter, really Dougie's? And I think it's pretty clear. Obviously, Dougie says it too to Jem, who Jem's like, I'm not going to be playing house with you and Shine and Krista. Like, that's never going to fucking happen. Get that through your fucking head. Like, that's not going to be the four of us hanging out playing house. It's not my kid. And Krista, why doesn't Dougie stay with Krista even though they've been together for their whole lives, she says when she's talking to Frawley. And it's probably because, Dougie wants out of this world. He wants out of this life. And Krista is a part of Charlestown. She'll always be a memento of that place. If he stays with her, he'll stay there forever. And so it's a reminder of Charlestown. So she is, and so he's got to leave Krista. He's not going to be with Krista anymore, even though he's not really. They just hook up here and there probably, and he doesn't want to be with her. That's basically what it is. Even though she wants to stay with him and wants him to stay, and that's ultimately what bites him in the ass and ruins the Fenway heist for him is. He turns down Krista, who hysterically wants to stay there with him right before their heist. And then she gets a DWI, crashes her car, and now she's going to lose Shine or give up information on Dougie. And that's how the FBI and the cops know that they're hitting Fenway.
Yeah, Blake did a great job. Like we said earlier, her accent's really solid, and she really feels like a city girl. I think she did a wonderful job with the characterization. It's the best acting I've ever seen her do, honestly. And she represents like not just Charlestown, but like his past life that he's trying to separate himself from. His drug addiction, his alcohol addiction. She still is using drugs daily, and he's out of that. He's sober. He's drinking cranberry juice or whatever that Shirley Temple they joke about. So
Poor sober bastard.
So
cranberry juice.
He's trying to escape his past. He's trying to move on from his past, and so she is she's a memento of her past, like you said, of his past. So he has to leave her, and he can never be with her if he wants to move on and get away.
And he wants that second chance, and he sees that with Claire. That's why he gives Claire the diamond necklace. How many? You've been with him your whole life. How many diamond necklaces did Doug give you? What do you mean? Because he loves Claire, and he sees Claire as a way out or as a second life, and he asks her to go start a new life with him, and they agree, and it's actually really sweet and touching. And Fergie's also a really interesting character who's basically runs the block, runs the neighborhood. If you pull a scam, if you pull a heist, you got to pay your dues. You got to give him a cut. And we learn more about. You can tell Dougie doesn't like Fergie because he knows that his father worked for Fergie and his father's in prison, but he doesn't find out until later that Fergie tells him that, like, I'm the reason why your mother's gone, why she's dead. Your father didn't want to work for me anymore. He also wanted his own he wanted his own thing. He wanted to do his own stuff, make his own money, do his own heists. So what I got your mother hooked on drugs, and then she eventually killed herself. And you should have seen you running around the neighborhood in your underwear looking for her like a hopeless little kid. And there's nothing Doug can do at the moment because he threatens him with Claire, and they put the funeral arrangement outside Claire's apartment. So Dougie has to accept that job for Fergie to rob Fenway. And one of the most interesting lines, I think, in this movie is when Fergie is talking to the guys, the four of them on that bench, talking about the heist with the information they have. They have a guy who works at Fenway who has a gambling debt and addiction. He couldn't pick a horse to save his fucking life, he says. And Fergie says, I can see all your daddy's faces on you, which is really interesting, showing that, like the opening credit roll says, that it's basically robbing and crime is sort of passed down generationally.
It's a family trade.
Father to son, a family trade, just like it would be like plumbing or a family business or architecture or construction, something like that. So I can see all your daddy's faces on you. It's really great.
Pete Postlethwaite is an amazing actor, and he's an iconic, legendary Irish actor. And so getting him in this role, it's a big deal. Like he in Gone Baby Gone, he had Morgan Freeman, Ed Harris. I mean, big, heavy hitters. And then Postlethwaite is a heavy hitter from Europe. So having him in this role, I think, adds so much prestige to the movie. And he's actually based on a real character, a real person who was a real gangster, ran a neighborhood, and also fronted a flower shop through his nefarious practices.
Gotta clean that money.
And there's actually a couple other movies that have adapted that character and put him into their movie with like this gangster florist. But I like how you said that Doug clearly doesn't like him, because both times that Doug and Jem go to see him, Jem shakes the guard's hand and then Fergie's hand, like he daps them up, but Doug doesn't dap anyone up.
Doesn't even say anything.
He doesn't
really.
say anything. He just looks at them, nods. He has no respect for them, but he understands he has to do this. It's the way the neighborhood runs. It's the way this whole cycle works in the crime world. We have to pay him the cut, but he's not going to say anything to him.
The Fenway heist is just epic. It is the Cathedral of Boston. It's so cool to be there. Obviously, I think it's awesome to be the week of, see the hit that Poppy gets, like to get a go-ahead run or something like that.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Oh, when they went to the
They're
stadium,
just scoping the stadium out.
Yeah, I saw this interview with Renner, and he said Renner, when they were prepping for the movie, Affleck took him to a couple of games, and Renner said he was blown away by like the baseball culture of Boston. It's just on another level. Yeah.
Part of the
It's
DNA.
like he was like calling it like this crazy special environment that I've never been in.
Insane, especially that era. But I mean,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the 2000s was in the prime time to be a Red Sox fan and be in the city. Like
We peaked. We were spoiled with Sox and Patriots. So spoiled.
Good sports life growing up. But the Fenway heist is epic on every single level. It's very clever. You know, they go in as cops. They subdue the guards very cleverly, saying there's a miscommunication about a 911 call. The money room's really interesting and really cool to see, like behind the doors and inside the workings of a stadium like this, especially an old one like Fenway. And then swapping uniforms to paramedics. However, they don't count on being an entire police force outside waiting for them. Obviously, they don't know, but Krista has told them, obviously, the FBI what's happening.
It's like, it reminds me of Dog Day Afternoon when the detective calls Pacino. He's like, "What are you doing in there?"
Attica!
You are fucked. I got you by the balls. And it's a great scene when, like you mentioned earlier, when they're loading up the ambulance and everything worked perfectly. They got the money. They're disguised as EMTs now, loading up the van. And then Doug just notices, like, this place was once bustling with workers prepping for tonight's game. Then it's so quiet, and he steps out into the opening and looks through, and nobody's around. It's a quiet, dead zone. He's like, fuck. And then he looks out the window, and he sees the entire Boston PD just waiting outside. It's such a great moment, and that silence just really like solidifies the suspense.
The shootout's awesome. There's a ton of bullets sprayed, so reminiscent of Heat. It's back and forth, and obviously a more closed and contained area like inside Fenway versus out on the streets. But I mean, great moments, and as well as the death of the two soldiers, the two other guys. First, Glonesy gets killed, and then Desi gets shot after the flash grenades. And then they cleverly escape in their police outfits, which actually Glonesy comes up with the idea. They're looking for paramedics. They're not looking for cops, and they just get out, and you think they're going to get away. But then obviously Frawley finds a cop with a giant bag, and it ends up being Jem, and Jem gets killed, which we talked about earlier. But then Dougie basically gets away. Unfortunately, he sees Jem's death, but he gets away scot-free. He's got backup plan to get a MBTA employee outfit when he gets back to his place. And then that phone call with Claire when she's got the FBI at her house, it's so reminiscent of Heat. Val Kilmer's character. And what's her name?
Ashley Judd, man.
Ashley Judd. And it's actually it's really clever the way they wrote it and acted it out, where, you know, Dougie thinks that he's lost Claire emotionally, but he hasn't really, because he sees with the binoculars that the cops are there, and she's like, you should come here see me, I really want to see you, like. And he's like, oh, yeah, I'll be there. But then she says that thing, but I really want to see you, and it'll be like one of my sunny days, which tells him that, like, even though he knows the cops are there, he knows that she doesn't know that he knows the cops are there. But now he knows that she knows
she's giving him a hint.
Giving him a hint that the cops are there.
Yeah. And
then he's like, that's why he smiles, like, oh, man, I still got it.
Yeah, because she says earlier in the film her younger brother passed away on a sunny day. And so whenever she sees a sunny day, it's reminded, she thinks of death.
I honestly don't like that line, though. She's like, my brother died on a day like this. The sun's always out. Like
every day of summer, yeah.
Like, it's terrible that the sun reminds you of the death of your brother, but still, it's just like, Yeah, I guess.
Man, get off her back. She's
I'm
getting over
being,
a tragedy.
I'm being such a jerk.
Yeah,
I'm not
man.
getting, no, I'm just the screenwriting, not her.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Claire's great, man. Claire's great. And he gets away. I love how he gets away.
It's a happy ending, and the happy endings work sometimes.
Happy-ish.
It does. So, but actually, they did film a different ending.
Want to hear? Well, hold on. The first ending, obviously, is he gets away. He leaves a tangerine and the bag of money he leaves to the Boys and Girls Club, which she donates generously in his mother's name.
She donated the tangerine.
This actually, our mother and our father's mother's name are in this movie. Janice is in this movie. The name Janice, as well as Doris. Is his mother.
Yeah.
Our father's mother's name was Doris. So in memory of Doris McRae is the ice hockey rink, which is really great. So that's really cool. It's such a Boston name, Doris.
Yeah, Linda, Doris, yeah.
Janice. And then the Tangerine's there. You can kind of make up for your mind if they ever get reunited. I don't think they'll ever see each other again. But it's really sweet, but it's obviously a hint that I went to Florida.
I think she'll go see him.
Yeah, and then he goes and lives on some random bayou or some random
Out on the bayou.
some random area in Florida.
So the other ending is they film the sequence where when Doug goes and kills Fergie, and he blows his nuts off in the movie.
I love that scene.
It's great.
Who'd you say was clipped you? Who are you gonna tell clipped your nuts?
Man, and I like the cutaway. We don't see it happen. He just cuts to the next scene.
Yeah, because the black for a few frames.
So the way they originally filmed that sequence was Fergie shoots back at him a couple of times, and then Doug gets mortally wounded.
Oh yeah, because it just hits his vest.
Yeah. And so they filmed a sequence ending where Doug goes to Claire's apartment and dies in her arms. And that was the end of the film. And that's actually the ending the studio wanted. And that's how they were planning to release it. But they did test screenings. And the test screenings overwhelmingly said that the happier ending was better. So then
I like it too.
They went with the happy ending. I think it works. I like to see him
simple.
like he got relief. He was able to escape, and he's getting a third chance at life. And he fucked up so much in the past, and I think he went through so much turmoil and hell that he deserves a new life.
Yeah, he did his best to get out. He got out. I think it's nice, but I don't think they'll ever meet each other or see each other again. But I do like the ending a lot better. And I think that's a great shot of Dougie just like leaning over his railing, looking at the sunset. It's just a quick shot.
He's got a beard.
Yeah,
he's like a different person.
Yeah, it's really great. And
no more high fade.
However, I will say, like, it probably wouldn't be hard for the FBI to find him. Just like anyone with a Boston accent in Florida that isn't old, because we're all old people move.
Boston,
to,
yeah, everyone
retire
from New England retires in Florida.
I mean, it's a pretty nice place to retire if you're old.
I mean, Tampa Bay is pretty cool.
Why? Because Tom lived there.
No, I'm kidding. I don't even.
Brady lived there for 3 years.
I've never even been to Tampa Bay.
Acting like you've never been there. But that's the town guy.
That's the town. I have. Hold on. Okay. I have some fun facts. So the MLB actually had to sign off on the entire Fenway Park sequence.
Did they really?
They were cool with the entire thing except for gore and violence being too extreme. So there's actually another version of Desi's death when he gets sniped out in the headshot, where originally Ben Affleck had blood spray all over the van from the wound. But the MLB, they signed off on everything except for that, and they asked for the blood spray to get removed.
Why? Like, it's...
I don't know, man. I have no idea.
That makes no sense.
I have no idea.
For what?
I don't know.
He gets shot in the head.
Just
Still getting shot in the head.
Yeah, just branding, I guess. I don't know.
It's on an ambulance.
So they
It's not like the MLB like they approve of this.
I have no idea. I don't know. Because, I mean, I think that baseball stadiums are still under the licensing.
No, I get it. They want it to be as like
family friendly.
Not family, even though he's getting shot in the head. I get it.
I don't know, man. It's just he gets a headshot.
Yeah.
So they wanted less blood, which, I mean, it's silly, but I mean, it wouldn't happen. I don't think that they would have a problem with it now. Like, because now they're like, just give us as much press as you can. Just make people know we're here.
I know, man. They're losing ratings.
But I think I think it would have been cool to see like the blood spray right there. We've said all the other fun facts during the episode, so yeah, that's it. I love the town. It's fucking wicked awesome.
I wonder if they would even be able to do this kind of sequence today, because Fenway, since this movie came out, has been named a national landmark, a historical landmark in Massachusetts.
I don't know. I mean, I think it depends on whoever owns the property.
Well, the Henrys, like John Henry owns it.
I think it would be up to them about being filmed.
Which is why like only Ben could have pulled this movie off probably.
Yeah, I think they wouldn't have done it for anyone. Like I'm sure other movies that tried to film there.
But it's Ben Affleck.
It's because it's different from with something like Fever Pitch and a couple other movies. They film during games, and they'll have the actors acting in the stands, and it would be like during a game.
Yeah, but there's not a shootout.
It's not.
Fenway.
It's not a fucking action shootout. That would probably took them 3 weeks to film all that.
Bro, imagine if this shootout was on the field.
Oh man,
that would have been crazy.
Holy shit!
I bet you Ben wanted to do that.
Yeah, I know. Like the Dark Knight Rises Pittsburgh Stadium explosion.
That would have been cool.
Like that was cool to see that. So
you can't do that.
Nolan did it in with football, but I mean, it was just I love this movie. It's really great. I think after Heat, it is the best cops and robbers movie. After Heat.
Yeah, I mean, this century, it's got to be when it comes to just a cops and robbers movie. It probably is the best this century.
It hits all the beats. It's really really well done.
It's so well made, and you know Ben. No one like I said earlier, Gone Baby Gone surprised everybody, but then the town blew everybody's fucking hair back, man. Everyone was like, "Holy shit, this guy can direct his ass off." This movie's epic. I love it so much. The Town. Thank you for listening and tuning in to Raiders of the Lost podcast. Thank you so much for your support around the world. Again, leave those 5-star ratings and reviews on Spotify and Apple. Share us with your family members and friends. If you know anyone from Massachusetts, share this episode for sure. Become a patron at patreon.com/Raiders of the Lost podcast. And take care, everybody.
See you next time.
This episode was executive produced by our chosen one patrons, Cody Moen, Andrew Hagan, Benjamin Cook, Calvin Murphy Griggs, Darian, Tyler McFly, and Sal Koching. Our chosen one patrons are our biggest supporters. Thank you so much. Thank you for watching Raiders of the Lost podcast. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit the like button as well, notifications for sure. Listen to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, everywhere you can listen to podcasts, and be sure to check out this other content we have on our YouTube channel.